Will that perfectly executed pole by Max Verstappen and Red Bull prove crucial tonight? Will training and tyre performance bear dividends for the team that can get it right and cause problems for those that can get it wrong? It's the soft, the medium, the hard, C5, C4, C3, same as last year, but the starting grid is way different. Renault bounced out of the Formula One calendar in their 771st Grand Prix. Their last race as an engine supplier, sadly for them, they occupied the back row. Ahead of them, Nico Hulkenberg, 12-12 in the quali head-to-head at Sauber. He's alongside Alex Albon for Williams. Lewis Hamilton was 16th on the grid here last year. He came fourth. He's going to try and do that again tonight. He starts alongside Lance Stroll. Kimi Antonelli on the podium from 17th in Vegas. What can he do from 14th tonight? Liam Lawson starts 13th for Racing Bulls. Behind Carlos Sainz for Williams, and Ollie Behrman, who missed the top 10 by just 7/1,000th of a second. Yuki Tsunoda in the top 10, aims to run a 6th Grand Prix without a Q3 appearance, alongside the man who takes his place next season at Red Bull Isaac Hadja. Esteban Ocon starts 8th, alongside Gabriel Bortoleto. Sauber start their final race in the top 7, like they did their first in 1993. Fernando Alonso is 6th on the grid, alongside Charles Leclerc for Ferrari. George Russell, 4th best qualifier of the season, starts 4th tonight. Oscar Piastri, championship leader for 15 rounds this season, is 3rd on the grid. Lando Norris, the championship leader on the front row. Max Verstappen has bagged pole, and Martin Brundle, very soon, it's time to stop all the preamble. It's time to stop the talk. You cannot overhype this evening. I just want to get on with the action.
Verstappen and Red Bull have to control the pace of this race. McLaren and Norris and Piastri have to overtake him somehow and control the pace of this race. McLaren have split strategies between their two drivers. Medium compound for Lando Norris, the faster, less durable one. Hard compound for Oscar Piastri. And also then, next one on the hard compound is Yuki Tsunoda in the second Red Bull. Will they try and run long? There's no doubt about it. Even though one is on pole and the other Red Bull is in 10th, they will be trying to use those cars to destabilise McLaren's race.
We're expecting, if Max Verstappen goes into turn 1, comes out unscathed and is leading the race, to control the pace, put the handbrake off to a certain extent, keep the pack tightly close together. That's why his teammates on the hard compound side tonight can maybe take advantage. But if Max now does that, Oscar Piastri can have first advantage by being out front when the others hit.
Yeah. And if he does get a bit of clear air in front of him, put the throttle down and try and build some space. So we've really got to keep an eye on everybody in this race as to where, and don't forget, Red Bull have a second team on the grid in Racing Bulls. Now, they can't block and they can't breathe, but there's nothing to stop them leaving those cars out if they can bring them into play and use them at least to slow, as Red Bull did with Sergio Perez back in 2021, at least slow the progress of the McLarens if they can get between them at some point with a counter strategy.
Further down the field, it's a soft tyre start for Hamilton, Albon, Hulkenberg. That soft tyre start could pay dividends if they pit early and put on the hard tyre and it goes to the end. Andrea Stella, the McLaren team boss, I said to him, how did you sleep last night? He said, well, yeah, I was a bit on and off until I realised what the strategy should be for today, and then I slept beautifully. So Bernie Collins, I wonder if they've got it right.
Well, time will tell, Crofty, but the race is on with that split tyre strategy for McLaren. That is so important to how today is going to plan out. Tsunoda, I expected to start on a hard. That's beautifully set up to create some traffic, to help Verstappen potentially go on and win this race and his 5th Drivers' Championship. Can Tsunoda extend long enough and hold the McLarens back? Piastri is hoping that the hard tyre doesn't disadvantage him off the line, but brings him opportunity later. So playing the long game, can that work? Time will tell, Crofty.
Great to have you with us on the pit wall tonight. Bernie Collins, former head of strategy at Aston Martin, strategy engineer at McLaren before that. She's our eyes and ears on the pit wall. Anthony Davidson in race control and monitoring the on-track action. We're going to get some tonight.
And curiously, this is not, normally it's been a sort of relatively easy one-stopper, but they're finding the tyres, and I think that could well be because the track's been resurfaced through turns 1 through to 4, and that's super high speed, especially turns 2 and 3. and they might just be taking a little bit more energy and life out of the tyre.
Right then, Martin Brundle. Lando Norris, 408 points. Verstappen, 396. Piastri, 392. Verstappen's on pole. Who would you want to be out of the top three on the grid and contending tonight?
You would always want to be Norris with those 12 points in your pocket, because Verstappen needs Norris to have a problem. And so does Piastri actually need Verstappen and Norris to have a problem. So as we head towards the 5 lights out, Lando sitting there needing to just be in the top 3, starts second, got a very fast car, knows what to do, knows the track incredibly well, and you would think that should be fairly straightforward. Red Bull have got to make sure it's not.
So, by the time we finish tonight, we'll have completed 1,444 Grand Prix racing laps. We'll have raced over a distance of 7,313 kilometres, and Max Verstappen will have been world champion, ladies and gentlemen, for 1,457 consecutive days. Can he keep that run going? Will Lando Norris pounce and take his first world title? Will Oscar Piastri do the same and become the 3rd world champion from Australia? We started out in Melbourne. Will Melbourne be celebrating Oscar Piastri tonight? Or will it be a Glastonbury festival for Lando Norris, or Dutch delight for Max Verstappen?
Max Verstappen right at the front of his yellow marker line there. Doesn't want to give away any centimetres. And I think Lando also just move forward slightly as well, is right at the front of his start box. And they've got about 10 or 20 degrees of pointing at each other, the 2 front row sitters.
On the front row, Max Verstappen and Lando Norris going through their pre-start routine, both being told that they were absolutely spot on. So expect a very good getaway from both. There is the green flag. 5 lights on ahead of the drivers. Are you ready for this, ladies and gentlemen? It's lights out and away we go. Verstappen comes right over to cover Lando Norris. Leaves a gap for Piastri if he wants it. Norris trying to jockey his way past, but there is no way past. The top 3 all through in the same order. Norris ahead of Piastri, and then Fernando Alonso battling away with Charles Leclerc. George Russell has dropped a couple of places at the start as Verstappen leads.
That's painful for George Russell there, losing those places, because he's got a car that is very fast. It's steaming down the inside. Goes a racing bull.
Well, Esteban Ocon behind Isaac Hadjar, trying to steam past as well. Gabriel Bortoletto, I think, has been passed by Isaac Hadjar, and now Max Verstappen towards the chicanes. Behind them, it's almost wheel to wheel for Alonso, the former Ferrari driver, and Leclerc, the current Ferrari driver, and still Esteban Ocon trying to find a way past, as Alonso has this time got past Leclerc. No, Leclerc just squeezes him out on the exit, but here comes Oscar Piastri right behind Lando Norris towards turn 9, and he's picking up a great slipstream as he moves to the outside. Piastri goes round the outside of Lando Norris, and he swoops through into 2nd place.
On the hard compound tyre as well, that's a critical move. So suddenly then, Max Verstappen with a different McLaren on his in his mirrors and on the hard compound tyre. That was an amazing move from Piastri, and our McLaren thinking, let's send him off. We're not going to let Max Verstappen do the slow pace. Let's get in there and get after him.
Well, drama on that first lap, with a great move from Oscar Piastri has put him up into 2nd place. Max Verstappen leads, Lando Norris 3rd. That is good enough if he finishes there to win the World Championship. There's a long, long way to go. Leclerc is somehow still ahead of Alonso. Russell 6th, Bortoletto is ahead of Hadjar. Ocon 9th, Tsunoda 10th. Ollie Behrman has dropped a place to Lawson. Sainz has dropped a place. Lawson's picked up 2 places. Hamilton on the soft tyre and Albon on the soft tyre picking up 2 places. Stroll and Antonelli heading down. Hulkenberg, Gasly, Colapinto the bottom 3.
DRS is now enabled, and neither of the McLarens have got it, but Charles Leclerc has in the Ferrari with a DRS train behind him. This is a problem now. This is a problem for Lando Norris. He really needs to stay close enough to Piastri, because Leclerc's going to get another dose of DRS right now.
And Oscar Piastri might not need that DRS, because he's got a much faster straight line speed than his teammate. Look how he's pulling away there from Lando Norris. He's a bit under pressure. And on the night that we say goodbye to DRS as well, the drag reduction system, where that rear wing opens up, this is the final race for DRS, and some might think that's a good idea, some might miss it. Well, we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for, but let's see what we get next year. But we don't care about next year right now. It's all about this evening. And you would have to say, this has not been a great opening 2 laps for Lando Norris.
The thing is, Lando Norris can't afford to start dropping back under pressure from Charles Leclerc behind him, and under pressure from Fernando Alonso, who was absolutely cock-a-hoop when he got that P6 in qualifying yesterday. He bounced back into the Aston Martin hospitality area, and I'm not surprised too. His highest start here in at the Yas Marina since, what, 2012. Started 6th that day, and he finished 2nd on the podium. There's race control have noted Franco Colapinto for a starting procedure infringement. That might be a jump start, and Hamilton has been noted for leaving the track and gaining an advantage.
Norris getting a little bit of breathing space behind him now, which he needs, of course. If he finished in this position, he would be the world champion. Long way to go, but it helps McLaren a lot that George Russell, I think, has got the 4th fastest combo on this racetrack, is tucked up behind Fernando Alonso.
And saying check his brakes as well, because his pedal feels a little bit long. It's not getting the response that he wants. Towards the turn 9 corner where Piastri got past Norris, he is still, George Russell, tucked up behind Fernando Alonso. Lewis Hamilton gaining on Ollie Behrman in the battle for 12th place, whilst Max Verstappen setting another fastest lap of this race and extending his advantage to Oscar Piastri. We all thought he might back up the pack and put the handbrake on. That's not happening at this moment.
Now, some people think that will be after the first stops have taken place, or the stop indeed has taken place. So we'll wait and see, because at the moment, you're right, he's stretching the field. We're looking for a 21-second gap to fit into after a pit stop, and they're already 12.9 ahead of 20th and last Franco Colapinto.
Lap 4 of 58. Once again, we're on board still with Lewis Hamilton. Don't forget, we've got the onboard channel for you as well. If you want to ride on board with any of the 20 drivers, you can do so. You need your Sky Sports app, your Sky Sports login, or press the interactive button on your remote control if you're watching on Sky Q, Sky Stream, Sky Glass, or Now. And now, yeah, here comes Leclerc, and here comes Russell too. Alonso's looking for him in his mirrors. George Russell down the inside on Fernando Alonso, and he puts his car up in the 5th.
So Alonso, I think, will then start backing the pack up now that he's lost that place to George Russell, who was out of DRS. But look at this, Leclerc as being a right menace behind Lando Norris.
And ahead of Lewis Hamilton, Behrman and Lawson having a right old tussle as well, as Charles Leclerc gets really close to the back end of Lando Norris, and Hamilton has made up a place there. And is that Ollie Behrman with a little bit of trouble? Do we see some spark? He's coming back at him, and he almost made contact. Wow, there's a battle going on for 12.
And the story also here is Ferrari have a much better race car than a qualifying car. They look good.
Those soft tyres working well for Lewis Hamilton currently. His teammate Charles Leclerc is up in 4th and is putting all sorts of pressure on Lando Norris as they cross the line once again. 2.2 seconds.
And Lando, we're happy with this as long as you're comfortable. This will be plan A, target lap. Plan A, target lap.
Yeah, and that's unless the Ferrari gets past him. If he's got a bit more pace, he ought to just get himself a bit of breathing space there, because Leclerc cares nothing about the World Championship.
So Leclerc might just be not getting the DRS advantage on this lap, unless he can gain a few hundreds behind Lando Norris. There it goes into the hairpin, so he should still get that advantage, about 18 kilometres an hour of extra pace down the straight, but he's a long, long way back.
Hasn't got it.
Yeah, 2.5 seconds. Verstappen over Piastri. Bernie Collins on the pit wall. Let's go down to you.
Yeah, just quickly, Crofty. So Norris seemed to be managing a lot through turns 2, 3, 4, and that's where Leclerc was able to gain on him. And then with the DRS, which he's lost this lap, better in straight line speed as well. Now, the last time through 2, 3, 4, Norris has improved the pace there, so maybe a bit of early management that allowed Leclerc to close. But I'll continue to watch it and let you know how it goes.
Yeah, well spotted, Bertie. Yeah, tyre management, just easing off the throttle, not putting too much lateral load in. So it was Alonso who got a stormer of a start, wasn't it, in the Aston Martin, up the inside of Leclerc's Ferrari as well. And at this point, it all looks perfect for McLaren. And when they get round to turn 9, Piastri will put a move. What's that, a planned move? Will put a move on Lando Norris. And look at that, Leclerc also having a look into turn 5 as well. But Norris seems to have it covered.
This is the start on board with Max Verstappen. Just moves straight away over to the left-hand side.
It wasn't Max's finest ever Formula 1 start, that, and so he had to make it a very wide Red Bull.
It was good enough though.
It just bogged down a little. It was fine, but it just bogged a little.
Talking of getting bogged down, here's George Russell.
Too much wheel spin. That so often happens when you know you haven't got the initial launch. You get a bit trigger happy on the throttle and you double your troubles.
So George Russell started fourth, currently running fifth, was running down in sixth place as still Max Verstappen extending his lead out in front over Oscar Piastri, as we see Piastri's move now on Lando Norris in towards turn 9. He was picking up a great slipstream. I don't know if it was planned or not, but he certainly committed early into that.
Yeah, and it was a lovely move, and he's got a bit more straight line speed, and as you say, the slipstream, no DRS. They both start harvesting, that's the red lights flashing, filling their battery up, and very bold. He had enough grip to go around the outside. That's a sweet move from Oscar Piastri. Beautiful.
And the thing with Oscar Piastri is he's on the hard compound tyre. He can go much longer in this stint and dictate and control the race, you would imagine.
This is good for now, Max. We may wish to be going longer, so just keep on top.
And that might be a cue for Max Verstappen to start just controlling his pace a little bit. But Piastri can go much longer, we think, than Max Verstappen. They've kept a couple of hard tyres back in McLaren just in case. And when he's controlling the race, we'll see what the pace is like then. Now, I mentioned Lewis Hamilton had been noted for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. The stewards have had a look at it, as has Anthony Davidson, and what did you see?
Yeah, so he was racing Sainz, Crofty, through turn 6 where he mounted an attack, and then on the exit of turn 7 he'll claim that he got hit out of the way, but he did actually end up overtaking the Williams driver off track. Lando Norris under pressure once again here from Charles Leclerc. Norris has been told by his engineer that we suggest using a little bit more of your tyres to make this a bit easier. Doesn't look too easy to me yet.
And the stewards have said no further investigation on that Lewis Hamilton issue. As here comes Charles Leclerc once again towards Lando Norris once again. He gets tucked up behind, but no way past the McLaren.
Yeah, so Lando's managing his tyres, as Bernie was pointing out, not trying to take too much life out of them in the really high-loaded areas, but Leclerc is a major threat there for his top 3 position that he needs to win this World Championship. But he's thinking the long game. Lando doesn't look flustered. He's not going and defending fresh air and spending too long defending against Prix when it's not quite in position. So what they're basically saying there, we've asked Oscar to speed up. That's because Lando's driving in his dirty air, and they're nervous. McLaren are nervous that they're under pressure from Charles Leclerc. The Ferrari is performing better in race trim.
If Lando Norris is fourth in this race, Max Verstappen has to finish second or lower for Lando Norris to be world champion. Just one of the many permutations here tonight.
Now Lando had a little...
Let's see if we can start putting Verstappen under pressure.
And I tell you what, Norris needs some good traction out of turn 7, because Leclerc's going to get another rear wing open moment and the slipstream, and he'll be on to him. So they want Piastri to pick up the pace so that Lando can pick up his pace and not be in so much dirty air.
That was a good exit there by Lando Norris out of that turn 7 chicane. Let's head down to Ted in the pit lane.
It's only lap 8. We've already had our first stopper. It's Nico Hülkenberg in the Sauber, and he's got off the soft tyre. So expect to see Lewis Hamilton in within a handful of laps. And talking of target lap time for Lando Norris, between laps 15 and 21, unless they want to extend it on that medium tyre. Just a reminder of the time, how long it takes you: 21 seconds under normal situations, 11 seconds if it's under a virtual safety car. And as I say it, in comes Hamilton with the soft tyre to get rid of that. Didn't last for long, but he made up some places.
Seriously, predicting the future there, Ted. Kravitz and also Alex Albon into the pits, the other starter on the soft tyres.
Leclerc just had a scruffy exit of turn 1, and it's put him a little bit behind. And on go the hard compound tyre. This is all they can do for Lewis, really, isn't it? To put him out of sync with many others, give him a chance to come through the field from 16th on the grid.
It's a strategy that worked very, very well for Kimi Antonelli when he stopped early and got rid of the soft tyres in Las Vegas, and went on to score a whole host of points. The young rookie finished third after the two McLarens had got disqualified. Antonelli, by the way, starting just 2 points behind Hamilton in 7th in the championship today.
Piastri, I don't know how he's seeing that. Piastri is like Verstappen's front tyres. You were looking at some data, Coffee. Verstappen's front tyres, I can see them graining. That's impressive from that distance.
He's got the best eyesight in Abu Dhabi this evening. Bernie Collins has got the second best eyesight. She's looking at a laptop.
Well, I've got some data, Crofty. That's definitely helping my eyesight. So what do we think is going to happen now with McLarens? I think McLaren were not expecting Piastri on that hard tyre to get ahead of Lando Norris on the medium tyre. Piastri should run longer into the race than that hard tyre. Does that mean that they allow Norris to undercut him by stopping first off that medium big decision on the pit wall? So that means that Piastri likely run long on that hard and then have to gain positions back at the end. So how long can the hard go, and is the medium graining that Piastri likely go in the second stint be so much better that he can overtake and push for that first Drivers' Championship? Lots still to play for, particularly across these two McLarens.
And unlike 7 days ago, Fernando Alonso is not playing the hold the rest of them up and then I'll bolt just before my pit stop. He's lapping 30.0 on that last lap. He's lapping fast, so what that means is we're not getting a big pit stop gap for the top 3 or 4 to pit into.
Well, Max Verstappen said, we're just going to go out and win the race and we're going to run it as best we can and not really get involved too much in the games, and that is what's happening so far. Hulkenberg has just set the new fastest lap of the race, not surprising because he's just been into the pits to put the hard tyres on, and Zach Brown is on the pit wall at McLaren. So Zach, tell us from your perspective how the opening 10 laps have gone.
So far, so good. Can't say I'm comfortable, but we're in good shape right now. Just need to manage the race.
Zach, were you expecting your cars to swap position on the first lap? Did that come as a bit of a surprise?
No, I wasn't surprised by that.
Zach, thanks ever so much. We'll be back with you in a little while. Max Verstappen then, who's led 4 Grand Prix and 2 sprints from start to finish this season, is leading and has led each and every one of the 10 racing laps we've had so far tonight. Oscar Piastri is in 2nd place. Lando Norris is in 3rd. That is good enough for Lando Norris to become champion at the end of 58 laps. For Verstappen to win the title, if he wins this race, Lando Norris has to be 4th or lower. For Oscar Piastri to win the title, if he finishes 2nd, Lando Norris has to be 10th or lower, and Max Verstappen has to finish 4th or lower.
Let's see when he slows down if we can see any of this graining. They don't look too bad. They don't look too bad at all. But with Piastri sitting there on hard compound tyres, that really confines Red Bull in terms of trying to slow the pack down. They've really got, and Zach sort of just confirming it there, they weren't surprised at the change on the first lap. They put Piastri in there and he can torment Verstappen and he can very much restrict what Red Bull can do from there. With that car, his talent and those hard compound tyres.
And if it was a predetermined plan from McLaren, it's good for Piastri. It gets him up into 2nd place. It only becomes bad if he has to hand the place back to his teammate later in the race.
A dream situation here for McLaren would be Piastri out front, if they can do it, and he will be at some point because of the tyres. Norris 3rd. They've got both drivers in a World Championship winning position. Norris would take it, but that gives them an each-way bet to avoid the nightmare for McLaren of Verstappen being the champion.
Well, they were Constructors' champions, of course, back in September in Singapore, or in October in Singapore, and tonight they want the double. The Constructors and the Drivers' Championship, looking good for them so far as Verstappen leads by about 2 seconds then from Piastri. Now outside the championship contention, Charles Leclerc's just dropped back a little bit on Lando Norris in recent laps. George Russell, who's not really very happy with the way things are going, is currently running in 5th. Fernando Alonso 6th ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto. Isaac Hadjar in 8th and Esteban Ocon 9th. And then comes Yuki Tsunoda in 10th. Lawson and Behrman are under investigation, driving erratically potentially. Liam Lawson, the stewards, are looking into that one at the moment.
And there's an interesting little battle, isn't there? Kimi Antonelli is 2 points behind the man whose seat he took when he moved to Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton's pitted, he's down in 18th, but at the moment you'd have to say advantage Lewis Hamilton with that pit stop out of the way, and that little sort of interesting aside, isn't it, between Antonelli and Hamilton. The dynamics of that are quite fascinating.
Well, 18 seasons in Formula One for Lewis Hamilton. He's never finished outside the top 6 in the championship. That could happen tonight if Kimi Antonelli scores 2 points and Lewis Hamilton doesn't score any. So interesting, and I think for Lewis Hamilton actually quite important as well to at least come away from this season with another top 6 finish in the championship to keep that record going and then build on something in the winter to come back in a much better frame of mind, which I really hope he does.
Leclerc starting to hurt a little bit now with his tyres. He's been in close to the back of that McLaren, and we know the McLarens have tended to be very good at keeping their tyres intact on the longer run, something they couldn't really use last weekend because of that 25 lap limit.
My graining is definitely picking up, says Lando Norris, so he'll be happier that Oscar Piastri's a little bit further up the road, but he'll be concerned about that graining and how that affects his performance and his traction out of the slow corners.
Now, Tsunoda is 16 seconds adrift. It won't be about another 5 laps. Tsunoda will be more than a pit stop behind. Again, takes away, unless they can get Tsunoda in and doing some stunning lap times, takes away him as a tool in this race to destabilise McLaren.
Good news for Tsunoda is that Isaac Hadjar is just backing things up a little bit here, and that has brought Esteban Ocon into contention in DRS range, and that's going to give Yuki Tsunoda a chance to get a little bit closer as well. What they're telling Tsunoda on the team radio is that opportunities will come, because some of the DRS train is breaking up a little bit, but you're absolutely right, Martin. 16.3 seconds behind his teammate and leader at the moment, Max Verstappen.
Now, Piastri just done a 29.2, just taken 4/10 out of the lead of Max Verstappen. And we got a 5-second time penalty for Liam Lawson for driving erratically.
We saw that in the chicane at turn 6 and 7 when we were on board. I think with Lewis Hamilton. He was just a little bit behind them at the time before he pitted, and they certainly came together very closely, but we didn't quite see what triggered it.
Going around corners at 200 miles an hour is quite erratic anyway, isn't it, basically? But anyway, he was extra erratic because it's a 5-second penalty he'll serve at the pit stop. They're not allowed to touch the car for the first 5 seconds.
The championship midfield battle is important for prize money, and at the moment Haas not closing in on Aston Martin, who had a decent weekend in Qatar and went back ahead of Haas in that 7th place in the championship. We're on board then with Esteban Ocon. DRS zone number 2. Is there a way past the car in front? Isaac Hadjar? No, there isn't. Ted, down to you.
Right, so if we think the first lap that the medium starters can pit and go onto the hard, go to the end of the race very comfortably is lap 15, that's a lap away, isn't it, Crofty?
Yes.
So if you want to make a cup of tea, go and do it now, because I think George Russell might pull the trigger here on a potential undercut with Charles Leclerc. Mercedes team radio.
Oh, Ted, you are the best fortune teller we've got.
He's right in front of me. He's right in front. I promise you, I didn't know that was going to happen. But the mechanics are out. They're ready for a pit stop. Also comes in with the Racing Bulls. Oh, a bit gingerly away for George. I think he had to wait for the Racing Bulls there. But otherwise, he's pulling the undercut on Charles Leclerc. Let's see if Ferrari react. If they bring him in next lap, they've got half a chance. A second and a half Leclerc had on George. But otherwise, George needs a massive outlap now to undercut Leclerc.
Yeah, I tell you what he was also doing, and Hadjar and was also trying the same thing, and Behrman. They were covering Lewis Hamilton, because Hamilton stopped a few laps ago, and he has got ahead of Isaac Hadjar, and George Russell has come out just ahead of his old teammate, so he was covering him off.
Yeah, well, he's got to get past Colapinto quite quickly, George Russell, but then he's going to come across a big queue of traffic. Ocon, Tsunoda, Lawson, Sainz, Stroll, Antonelli. He's got to hope they start pitting soon too.
Yeah, so it's not ideal that he's pitted into traffic, but he did have to come in to protect himself.
It was a necessity rather than a desire, I think, that pit stop for George Russell.
Quite. So will that then trigger the likes of Ocon, Bortoletto, Alonso maybe, to come in at the end of this lap? The undercut, they were just a little dummy down at McLaren, thinking, well, we might force Piastri to come in, or Charles Leclerc to come in, but they decided against that. I said, would Bortoletto come in?
The answer to that is yes. To protect him against the undercut, Alonso has stayed out. Tsunoda then moves up into 7th place, running on those hard tyres. Here is Bortoleto, Sauber's last race in Formula 1 as they become Audi for next season. And he's off and away, and he'll come out round about where Isaac Hadjar might be. Let's just see, there's Alex Albon making his way around turn 1, and he's beaten Alex Albon out onto the track, and Isaac Hadjar as well.
That's a proper pit exit, isn't it? Wow, you're doing 150 miles an hour before you finish it, but good news for...
And keep building this gap on Leclerc. It gives us choices.
The gap has gone up to 2.2 seconds.
They need more than that. If they want to have the luxury of hitting a lap after Leclerc, they want, and maybe even 2 laps after Leclerc, they need 4 to 5 seconds. What do you think, Bernie?
Yeah, I totally agree, Martin. I was just looking at that because I think Leclerc is at risk of an undercut on Norris. That's why they're trying to open that gap. And Norris is too far behind Verstappen.
Right, they're waiting at McLaren for that. Lando Norris could see the crew out in the pit lane, and Lando Norris is coming in to make his first and possibly only stop of this race, and Charles Leclerc is also coming in, and Fernando Alonso will also pit too, and that won't affect Norris's exit as McLaren do a super job in servicing 4 tyres and getting him back out again. 2.5 seconds for Ferrari, 2.1 seconds for McLaren.
Now Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc, for that matter, will hear the traffic on the pit straight. That's the most awful feeling in the world when you're on the pit limit, so you can hear all your rivals. So he will come out behind Kimi Antonelli, and there it is.
I was going to say the Mercedes you saw through turn 1 was Kimi Antonelli, so it's down in 9th place now for Lando Norris. Antonelli and Sainz and Stroll, Lawson haven't pitted yet.
Oscar, do you think we can do plan A? Thoughts on plan A?
I think it's doable for now.
And plan A then, go long on these hard compound tyres as his teammate is stuck in a bit of a DRS train. And that's not good news for Lando Norris. They've all got DRS, but unless they can get past Liam Lawson, who's running 5th, then they all stay in that stationary position.
I guess they had to react with Norris to Russell as well, didn't they? And also Alonso and Leclerc came in, but this is not ideal for Lando Norris in this amount of traffic.
Just in the background, Charles Leclerc looks under pressure a little bit from George Russell, just on the tail of that DRS train. All the while here, Lando Norris is going to be losing time to his championship rivals, Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri. And I said Charles Leclerc was under pressure from George Russell. Look how close Russell is.
Yeah, Leclerc looks like he's got no grip on those tyres at all. I hope they come to him a little bit, but he was really struggling for grip out there on the hard compound tyres.
So both Leclerc and Norris pitting to cover off George Russell, who pitted earlier, but it's put them in severe danger. Norris into traffic, Russell right on the tail of Leclerc.
First not moving under braking, I don't know what it is. Literally, as I brake, we move.
I can't wait for the day George Russell joins us in the commentary box, Martin. He has got so many opinions down the inside. Goes Lando Norris on Kimi Antonelli. That's a move he had to make. So there's 1 gone, and now he's got 3 more to try and get past as well.
Antonelli's got the DRS though, because the detection point's on the exit of the corner. Norris will have to watch out for him coming back at him, and he survives that moment. So now he moves on, and he should have a chance of getting past this Williams down the next straight.
And Stroll on the hard tyre, starting on the hard tyre, has now got past Liam Lawson and has moved up into 5th. Here comes Lando Norris on the Williams of Carlos Sainz. Great friends, former teammates, swapping places. Norris is up to 7th, 2 back straights and 2 places made up.
Yeah, that's important and very good overtaking there from Lando Norris. The one on Antonelli was great, very committed and an unorthodox place, unless you're 2021 Max Verstappen, quite an unorthodox place to try to overtake somebody, but he made it stick with those tyres.
He certainly did. Lawson is back ahead of Stroll as they swap places, and coming up behind Lance Stroll now is Lando Norris. Bernie Collins on the pit wall, down to you.
Yeah, so this is it, Crofty. This is the most dangerous bit of the race for Lando Norris's championship position, because coming through this traffic can, and often does, be the thing that causes a safety car. These overtakes that need to be made. In a safety car now, Verstappen and Piastri would be the big winners. So that's one to watch out for. Also, 3 cars ahead of Lando Norris is Yuki Tsunoda on that hard tyre from the start. So he's going to have to overtake him on track to close the pit window for Verstappen and Piastri.
He's going to get Stroll here into the chicane we go. He might get Lawson too, and does. Well, 2 drivers, 2 overtakes for the price of 1 for Lando Norris there. Yuki Tsunoda is next on the road.
Yeah, Ant is just in my ear, race control saying, that's brave when you're leading a championship. Really super driving there. And again, he needs to fend off this potential. It's so important to keep this place, and he will. He's got the grip to do it. And off he goes. So as Bertie was pointing out, next stop, Yuki Tsunoda, Max Verstappen's teammate. But to be honest, the pace he's got, and with those tyres, Tsunoda, I don't think, as long as he's playing reasonable, will have a prayer of keeping that McLaren behind him for half a lap.
And people might be asking at the moment, and as good as this is from Lando Norris, he is losing time as Ocon now pits to Verstappen and Piastri lap by lap. They might be saying, well, why did McLaren pit him when they did? Now, they were covering George Russell.
Yeah.
It's fine as long as Lando Norris stays ahead of George Russell, because that should protect that 3rd place when all this pans out and we see Charles Leclerc getting past Kimi Antonelli, and the pit stops are all played out. Lando Norris should still be in 3rd place, but they had to pit then to cover off George Russell, as we see the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll against Charles Leclerc, and now they can go wheel to wheel down that back straight, and on the inside Charles Leclerc should get that move done not once but twice. It's happened again. Liam Lawson and Lance Stroll, who haven't pitted yet, both passed in the same point.
Look at Lewis Hamilton right in there as well with that early stop. That's brought him nicely into play if he can keep those tyres intact.
Lewis Hamilton now up into 10th place. Watch out for Liam Lawson with a bit of DRS coming back at Charles Leclerc, but he's too far back to make a move into turn 9.
So 1 car then ahead of Norris against Tsunoda. Tsunoda then the next 2 cars are just the 2 cars in front of him, Verstappen and Piastri. And again then, it looks like Leclerc's got that Ferrari up to speed on the hard compound tyres. And you'd have to say, it's remarkably close to the back of Lando Norris.
Yeah, and they're still saying plan A for Lando Norris. No need to deviate too much. They're happy on that McLaren pit wall with the way this race is panning out. Now, the next blockage for Lando could be a blockage, might not be a blockage, we shall see. Will be Yuki Tsunoda, who started on the hard tyre for this very eventuality, to be a helping hand to his teammate Max Verstappen to try and hold up Lando Norris at some stage, because Norris was always going to pit by starting on the medium tyre ahead of the Red Bull driver starting on the hard tyre. There's Yuki, there's Lando. Give it a couple of laps and we'll see just how far behind he is, and then we'll see how quick he can make a move.
Okay, we expect Norris to be your DRS within 1 lap. All you can when he catches.
Just like I said there, if you can just help us out, Yuki, in what is your final race for Red Bull, and the final race for Honda with Red Bull 2, that would be lovely.
Yeah, as they did with Sergio Perez in 2021, but Lando Norris was 3/10 slower than Charles Leclerc on the previous lap. He's already a 10th down on this. Leclerc's fast. Leclerc is going to be the thorn in the side of McLaren tonight in this World Championship.
And look at George Russell go too, past Stroll, past Lawson. Lawson and Stroll having their own little battle here, and George Russell's there to pick up the pieces. He's up into 6th. It seems if you can pass the Aston Martin or the Racing Bulls, you'll get the other in the same corner at the moment. That's exactly what's been happening.
Yeah.
I know what to do, leave me to it, says Tsunoda.
Well, all he can do is try and slow him down a little bit through the final sector. That'll put Charles Leclerc right on his tail, but you're not allowed to weave, you're not allowed to block per se. Of course, this is for position, so there are no blue flags involved here. And Yuki Tsunoda, who is out of Formula 1 as of this evening, but stays with Red Bull as test and development reserve driver. And annoyingly for Norris, he hasn't caught him at the beginning of the straight, so Tsunoda will have all the right corners to slow Norris down.
129.1 on the last lap for Lando Norris with those fresher tyres. Verstappen a 129.4, Piastri a 129.5, Charles Leclerc a 129.0, George Russell making a couple of overtakes a 130.0, and the gap between Norris and Leclerc, not much at all, about a second and a half. There you see Charles Leclerc right behind the quiet car as into turn 9 they go.
Now he's found some grip. Leclerc is absolutely flying, but this is where Tsunoda can hurt Norris in terms of just through these slow corners and just back him up a little bit. But once they get then all the way down to the back straight, Norris ought to have the ability to go past him.
What has Yuki Tsunoda got to try and fend off Lando Norris? He hasn't got the superior tyre life. He has got the battery at his disposal. He's got the override button, as it were.
Leclerc is only 1.4 seconds behind Tsunoda's being told. We're bordering on the edge of unsporting behaviour here, right on the edge of it.
Yuki Tsunoda definitely putting the handbrake on at a 130.0. He was about half a second slower on that previous lap. Lando Norris is right on his tail. This is where Yuki Tsunoda now needs to deploy his battery and to give him that electrical boost down the back straight. But is it enough of a boost? Because here comes Lando Norris and he gets forced right almost completely off the track. Yuki Tsunoda made it tough, but Lando Norris sailed through. That is crucial for Lando Norris's championship charge.
We're going to have to look at that, because was he all four wheels off the track? He was, because he was pushed off the track. Yeah. But he overtook off the track. We'll check that out.
But he'll claim force majeure. I had to do it, otherwise I was going into the back of it.
I would think so, but...
Right, while that happens, in comes Max Verstappen. Let's head down to the pits. Ted Kravitz.
Yeah, so what that also did from Yuki Tsunoda is making sure that if Red Bull have a slow pit stop, then he is absolutely safe. It's not brilliant, but it's enough. So job done, enough from Yuki Tsunoda, notwithstanding pushing Lando onto the grass, and Max carries on. He'll rejoin well ahead of Lando.
Yeah, and the trouble when you're out there where Norris was is punctures. If you get such a risk of punctures when you're out in uncharted territory like that. But anyway, on they go.
There, you got some clear air. Let's see how this tyre recovers.
What have you got for us, Oscar? Try and build a gap, please, say McLaren. 23 laps led by Max Verstappen tonight. It means he's led more laps than any other driver this season. And this is the Lando Norris Yuki Tsunoda incident. Did he go all four wheels off the track? Was he forced all four wheels off the track?
Did he keep a bit of tyre on the white line? But Tsunoda moved. You're only allowed to move once. It's absolutely clear in the race. You cannot weave like that. That is absolutely against the regulations. Lando Norris was off the track. And of course the team will say, well, of course he was, because he was literally, we had a guy weaving all over. You absolutely cannot do what Tsunoda just did.
Which might be the defence to play here. Whether the stewards say, no, it's a good defence, but you still did it, I don't know. The thing is now that Lando Norris is what? Just looking at the gap, over 2 seconds ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. That has been noted by race control, so the stewards may well have a look at it. Oscar Piastri out in the lead. Max Verstappen runs in second place. Lando Norris third. That is still good enough for Lando Norris to be world champion if it stays that way.
So Red Bull will be saying he overtook off the track. They'll be pushing this hard now and I'm sure McLaren will be fighting back hard on it as well, and the stewards will have to be firm on all of that. So here we go then, we're back with it's now Piastri, Verstappen, Norris. Leclerc is still close enough to spoil Norris's race, life, in terms of Norris having to get into the top three.
We'll put it this way, Yuki Tsunoda has now been passed by Charles Leclerc. I don't think he made Charles Leclerc fight quite as hard as he made Lando Norris, and he probably won't do it for George Russell too, because that is not going to help his teammate Max Verstappen, and needs Norris out of the top three. Only Oscar Piastri of that top three hasn't pitted yet, and he's trying to build a gap to come back into this race and still be around first or second. This is Charles Leclerc passing Yuki Tsunoda. Yeah, Yuki Tsunoda kept well over to the right-hand side there, didn't he?
Well, his steering wheel appeared to be connected to his front tyres there, Yuki Tsunoda.
The stewards, so race control have actually noted Yuki Tsunoda now for forcing another driver off the track. That might be a 5-second penalty coming as well.
It'll be a relief to McLaren that that they're not looking at a pass off the track. That would be brutally unfair because of the weaving. But let's see. We'll keep an eye on this computer.
I think they are looking at it as well. It's been noted. The two incidents have both been noted. So forcing another driver off the track is now under investigation. Leaving the track and gaining an advantage is now under investigation. I mean, two wrongs don't normally make a right, but you can see both being chalked off because one wouldn't have happened without the other, so to speak. Either way, while that's going on, Charles Leclerc is now the fastest man on the track, and he's got some grip back now. His tyres have come up to temperature, and Lando Norris in third place, a bit more comfortable in terms of on-track position than he has been so far this evening, but I think we'll be wanting to be kept in touch with what's going on in the stewards' room.
Yeah, he can't give the place back, of course, because he's now miles behind and there's a clear between them, so I can't see how you can penalise somebody for forcing somebody else off the track and then penalise that person for going off the track.
Yeah.
But I guess you could say, well, the throttle works both ways. You should have slowed down when you were being forced off the track at a couple of miles an hour.
Yeah, we get that he forced you off the track. You didn't have to overtake him. And like I say, sometimes two wrongs don't make a right. This time they might do. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, all right. Let's see what the stewards do, but let's see what they do. So Lawson's got he served his 5-second penalty now, has Liam Lawson, for driving erratically.
I suppose if you go back to Austin last year with the incident with Max Verstappen, where Lando claimed he was forced off the track by Max, and he was, still overtook him, and he got the penalty that night as well, didn't he?
And of course, Leclerc has just done the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So right now, Leclerc is coming back at Norris, whose tyres must be full of rubbish. Coming back at him. He's got the faster package at the moment. And if Leclerc passes him, the only tool, if Norris is running fourth and Piastri can't win the World Championship, the only tool they've got left in their toolbox then is for Piastri to give up the victory and fall back to fourth place.
Yeah, which is a scenario we've been discussing at length. Long into the night, all weekend long, and one that Zach Brown, I'm sure, has been discussing, and Zach Brown and Andrea Stella making it clear to both drivers that they go into this race to serve themselves and the best interests of the team.
So they're going to have to pit Piastri soon anyway, because he's perilously close to being undercut by Norris and Leclerc. Yeah, this pace is mega, and well done indeed. So McLaren are going to have to get Piastri in. He's not going fast enough at the moment to protect against the undercut.
Ted, down to you.
Yeah, I've just been, while you've been talking about Lando being pushed off by Yuki, I've just been looking at Piastri's lap times. Martin, you're absolutely spot on. The mechanics not going out into the McLaren pit lane yet. It's a little bit early. They'd like to get it into the 30s. Bear in mind that Oscar will go onto the medium, so will be quicker, but this hard tyre is good. Remember, people were quite keen to get off the medium because of it was graining earlier. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Leave it a lap or two, and then Leclerc will be past Piastri when he pits. Quick decision to be made now down at McLaren.
Right, Fernando Alonso here on Kimi Antonelli. See the marbles that he's picking up by going offline to get that overtake done. That's him moving up into 9th place.
Yeah, it's horrible. There's another car that was nearly off the racetrack in an overtake, but luckily at high speed they can tend to flick off a little bit, and if your tyres are nice and hot, they don't join quite so much. Look at how fast and how determined Charles Leclerc is to spoil everybody's night, and why shouldn't he? Good for him.
Absolutely. Is there a podium on for Charles Leclerc this evening? So far in 2025, he's picked up 7 podiums, got an 8th becoming his way.
Lewis Hamilton with 2 warnings for track limits. You're allowed 3. The 4th one, you'll get a black and white flag.
George Russell is right now on the tail of Yuki Tsunoda, no way past at turn 9. Bernie, down to you.
Yeah, just a quick one, Crofty. So we are seeing Piastri has now been undercut by Lando Norris. So are they on 2 different strategies? Are Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc on a 2-stop strategy from that early stop Piastri has now done 29 laps on this hard tyre. Norris is expected to go well over that if he continues on just this stint and doesn't stop again. So that's one to watch, because they have now allowed Norris to undercut Piastri. So is he playing still a longer game than the Leclerc and Norris? Potentially, just watch out that they might be on a two-stop.
And Bernie, you know the secrets to the cabinet of strategies, the filing cabinet of strategies at Ferrari. Charles Leclerc has been told Plan C. What could Plan C be this evening?
Well, I think that might be it. I think that they believe they've got another medium to put on. They could put another medium on and attempt the undercut on Norris. Norris has another hard tyre to go to, so with different entire strategies if they were to stop again for both of those. But is Leclerc close enough with good enough pace to attempt the undercut on Lando Norris and force him to do another stop potentially?
Don't go anywhere. This race and this championship is not decided yet. Yuki Tsunoda ahead of George Russell, not for much longer. George Russell is ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, who has got a 5-second time penalty for more than one change of direction. You called it, Martin. He was weaving down the straight.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. You're allowed one move. If you come back towards the braking zone, you've got to give them a car's width. I always think that should be a car and 10 centimetres width to give them a little bit of breathing space. But what are they going to say about Lando Norris?
I'll tell you what they're going to say. Nothing to say. Leaving the track and gaining an advantage, no further action taken. So the inference there is that Lando had to go out there and had too much momentum to back off a little bit. Wasn't his fault that he overtook all four wheels off the track.
Yeah. And calm with that, because you can't tolerate driving like that and then penalise the guy that's been nearly run into it 200 miles an hour.
Yeah. I don't think there will be many arguing against that, but I'm sure we'll find out on social media after the race. Lap 30 of 58, Piastri now 14 seconds clear of Max Verstappen, and Zak Brown is on the pit wall, the CEO of McLaren. I would imagine there was a bit of conversation between the pit wall and race control. Give us your version of how it went and what you thought of the decision.
I think it was clearly the right decision, and that was a dangerous and unnecessary maneuver.
What did you think of the radio calls from Red Bull of Zak giving him details of the gaps behind Lando and what you've got to do? How do you feel about that?
Well, this is a team sport, so I'm not surprised that your second car is going to help out, but I think there's got to be a limit. But they're not driving the car, so you got to put that one on Yuki for, in my opinion, going over the line. It was a dangerous maneuver, but yeah, we're all good now.
And to the end of this race then, Lando Norris is maybe going to be under pressure from Charles Leclerc. Can you go to the end of the race on a one-stop, or are you looking at a two-stop race here?
I think all options are on the table at the moment.
Diplomatic, Zach. I love it. Thanks ever so much. Black and white flag shown to Kimi Antonelli and to Lewis Hamilton for exceeding track limits. One more, and there's a 5-second penalty coming their way, and Pierre Gasly's way, and Nico Hülkenberg's way. There's a lot of track limits. It is very windy out there tonight.
And the trouble is, if you have a scuffle and a squabble and you end up going off to avoid an accident, that's still a track limits infringement. Yeah. So then you start getting 5-second penalties. But Norris will be that pesky Ferrari in his mirrors that will not let him relax this evening. But so Piastri, if he is one stopping, plan A, we assume. I'm sure they should change those around so they don't give too much away. But Piastri has now been undercut by Verstappen, Norris and Leclerc.
And we'll have fresher tyres though, medium tyres as well, to the end of this race. Ocon gets past Hülkenberg. Verstappen sets a new fastest lap of the race.
We have been given a 5-second penalty for moving twice on a defence of Norris.
Penalty? A penalty ball.
We've got a penalty for moving twice in defence to Norris. Head down.
Was that twice or was that actually 4 times?
He's doing his best impression of a slalom skier.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed. I'm amazed he thought that was okay, to be honest, but well, there you go, in the heat of the moment.
I'm disappointed with that.
Hamilton pitting for a second time in this race, so the strategy to go soft and then hard isn't happening to the end of this race. So the graining severe enough that Lewis had to pit again, and that might then signal a few others in that midfield pack coming into pit once more.
So what's interesting here is Norris is just 5 seconds behind Verstappen, Leclerc 7.9. So those three, when Piastri pits, those three will be quite close together, and Piastri will have to start coming back at them with his extra grip and speed. That's going to be fascinating. There's going to be some overtaking going on in the final part of the Grand Prix. But all Charles Leclerc's got to do now, with George Russell 12.1 behind Leclerc, all Norris has got to do is stay ahead of that Ferrari. That's now job number one, the only job Norris has really got this evening.
Verstappen's pace, though, is really good on these hard compound tyres. I know he's only been running them for 9 laps, 7 laps more than Lando Norris, but he's lapping about half a second a lap quicker. He's really, really flying on these hard tyres. Piastri has run his right from the start. On that last lap was 1.2 seconds slower than Max Verstappen. We're watching Ollie Behrman chasing Nico Hülkenberg, and we're watching nothing happening at the Red Bull pit stop because there's a 5-second penalty for Yuki Tsunoda before someone says now, and then they can get going again with the tyre change. Do you know what? That was a really good tyre change, given that he was stationary for 5 seconds.
And they had to get him away because Antonelli was on his way in as well.
And Franco Colapinto becomes, I think, the 5th driver to be shown a black and white flag for exceeding track limits. This is Esteban Ocon on Kimi Antonelli, who is one of those that's been shown the black and white flag. Antonelli forces Ocon to go round the outside, and Ocon says, all right, don't mind if I do, thank you very much indeed. He's currently running in the last points place in 10th behind Gabriel Portoletto. Only Lance Stroll in this race hasn't pitted yet. Lance Stroll currently running in 6th. A safety car now would be absolute manna from heaven, I think, for Lance Stroll there, who hasn't scored a point, I don't think, since the summer break.
If Oscar Piastri doesn't win the World Championship tonight, I'm absolutely certain he will win at least one World Championship. He's got an age on his side. He's so fast, he's so good. Got a calm head as well. So he's driving beautifully. But at the moment, the points are against him. Ted, what can you tell us?
Interesting radio message to Max Verstappen. Just picking up what you're saying on the safety car, is that because he's been driving so quickly, if there's a safety car now, he'll still beat Piastri out of the pits, and that is crucial. So yeah, up until that point, Piastri, had there been a safety car, had an 11-second gap on Max Verstappen, and so would have beaten him. Another Williams in the pits now.
Basically, we need our fastest in to the end, Max. We don't want to give away too much race time to Piastri, who will undoubtedly be relatively quick on his medium.
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? How quick will he be? But yeah, I can just see down the pit lane, a little bit of movement now at McLaren, so I don't think it's going to be long before we have a Piastri stop.
Keep talking about safety cars. We haven't had one here tonight. We haven't had a yellow flag yet either. A bit like Suzuka earlier in the season, where Max Verstappen won from pole position. No DNFs, no yellow flags, no safety cars. All 20 drivers still running, and the final race with 20 cars in it for some time. Cadillac join the grid next year. We'll have 22 on the grids. Cadillac's 8 laps to come, Martin.
Lap 16, Norris put those tyres on. Can they get them to the end of the Grand Prix? Well, they have to stop again towards the end. That would, be, of course, bring Piastri right back into the lead of the Grand Prix. But Norris has been told, do less tyre saving in turn 3, halve your tyre saving in turn 3. In other words, go faster.
Does that indicate that he will be coming in again, I wonder, and certainly with his teammate having to pit?
And Lando doing a great job compared to Leclerc. He might pit soon and go on a 2, in which case we cover the next lap.
Yeah, so Piastri has to come in. Leclerc might have to, then he has dropped back a little bit in recent laps.
Yeah, because Norris is 4.4 seconds ahead of Leclerc. Now, if you gain a couple of seconds with some fresh tyres and a great outlap, you need that 2.4 he would have then fat, if you like, a little bit of time to spare just in case it's a slightly clunky stop, or whatever, you don't want to come out of the pits and be immediately under pressure by a driver whose tyres are fully warmed up. So what that is basically saying is we're protecting third place, Lando.
Yeah, at the moment, Oscar Piastri as well, when he pits, will come out behind Charles Leclerc, well ahead of George Russell, who's currently running in 5th. And there was no movement whatsoever from the McLaren garage as Oscar Piastri sets off on another lap on these same set of tyres.
So McLaren have still got 2 tools out there to use. One is a third place for Norris, and the other is Oscar Piastri if he can't win the World Championship. We'll see what happens in the well, we've still got, what have we got, 23 laps to go, including this one.
Piastri just 7 seconds ahead now of Max Verstappen. The hard, rather than medium start can work well here, and we'll still need to see how this plays out and how it pans out towards the end. He will have much faster tyres, you would imagine, than others around him. That's why Red Bull are saying to Max, you've got to start closing down a little bit. Penalty served for Yuki Tsunoda, we've just had that confirmed. Lewis Hamilton now on Franco Colapinto. Hamilton having pitted twice in this race, back on the mediums, or on the mediums for the first time I should say, getting that move done.
Yeah, he got a lot of grip, hasn't he? So Albon's been noted for speeding in the pit lane, which is rather like a camera on the road, a bit of a slam dunk, isn't it? So yeah, not good news for Alex Albon. In fact, Williams have been very anonymous, haven't they, in this race, one way and another?
Given the season they have had, absolutely. It's been a brilliant season for Williams.
How's this tyre now? Yeah, really starting to get a bit worse now. Okay.
I'm not surprised as Hamilton gets past Pierre Gasly and now up into 14th.
Unbelievably calm inside. It's like he's just got out of bed, isn't it? And you know, do you want a cup of tea? Yeah, so it means his heart rate's where it needs to be, means his mind's where it needs to be. He's going to have some exciting final few laps, but he will now obviously see that little yellow snout of the Red Bull in his mirrors, and he's got to do a pit stop.
So Williams' brilliant season, 5th is theirs in the Constructors' Championship. Alex Albon struggled a bit in the last 7 Grand Prix. He scored in the Austin Sprint, but hasn't scored in any of the last 7 and probably 8 Grand Prix after tonight. His teammate Carlos Sainz has come back at him in recent races. That 3rd place in Qatar was absolutely sensational for him. He goes into this race 9 points behind Alex Albon, but he's not scoring at the moment.
So he's finally got a comfort zone, Lando Norris. He's 5.4 ahead of Charles Leclerc, so they can react. He'll only pit if Leclerc pits. And he's also now clear of Russell with a pit stop, so he wouldn't even have to repass George Russell. So finally then, just a little bit of breathing space for Lando Norris, and clearly thinking soon about, so Piastri's now only 5 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. And I don't expect a lot of weaving when he catches him.
Anthony Davidson at Sky Race Control, you've been having a look at that Alex Albon pit lane incident.
Yeah, he just came in just a little bit too hot, Crofty. Came around the final corner, ducked into the pit lane, got a bit crossed up on the exit of the final corner as he dived into the pits, and then locked up big time. Rear axle locked up, and I think that's where I think he's going to get pinged for that, speeding in the pit lane. It was because of that lock-up.
And we'll see. Thank you very much, Ant. Esteban Ocon chasing down Gabriel Bortoleto at the moment. It's the points is he's under investigation, Albon, now by the stewards. These points for the midfield team very, very important indeed going into this race. There's millions of dollars up for grabs.
So Verstappen's hard compound tyres are 6 laps younger than those of both Norris and Leclerc. So we're seeing Piastri now, bearing in mind that he started obviously with full tanks of fuel. We're seeing Piastri having got to lap 38 with a set of tyres, so that means that that's the sort of range that Norris has got to do 42 laps on his set of tyres if he's going to get to the end. It's a long way for them to go. As I say, if he can tickle those to the end, he'll only have to pit should Leclerc pit.
At last lap, Lando Norris only had 10th and a half slower than Max Verstappen as well, which is a pretty decent lap for him. And looking at where the cars are on the track, there's no back markers getting in the way. The gap now down to about 3 and a bit seconds between Piastri and Verstappen. There's no movement whatsoever, apart from the odd half a revolution of tyre at the top of the blankets in that McLaren garage. Carries on like this, they probably put the soft tyres on, but I dare say they won't want to be doing that on Piastri. But they're giving him a job to do, aren't they, in terms of his chances of winning the World Championship. He is very much relying on some misfortune from here on in for both Max Verstappen and Lando Norris.
Yeah, what Tsunoda should have done to slow Norris down, where he could have backed him right up in all underneath the hotel and through the last few corners and all the way down to turn 5.
Yeah.
He could have cost Lando 2 or 3 seconds like that, because he was always going to get past down the next straight.
Here's Lewis Hamilton with his next adventure against Isaac Hadjar, who's running down in 14th. He really got caught out by a few cars undercutting around him. And that is Esteban Ocon on Gabriel Bortoleto going round the outside. And very neat from both drivers, plenty of space there.
We haven't actually seen any contact whatsoever, have we?
We've had no contact, no yellow flags, no DNFs, and Max Verstappen very much in contention now on Oscar Piastri, under 2 seconds as Leclerc comes in, Ted.
Bernie Collins was right. She's always right, Crofty. It is a 2-stop for Charles Leclerc, but this puts McLaren in a really tricky situation. They were about to pit Oscar Piastri. Surely that decision has to be shelved now. They need to react right now with Lando Norris, and the stop has to be perfect. This is really tricky. They've got to rejiggle everything here at McLaren now.
Well, you're right, Ted, but I think they've got enough room on the track, Martin, to double stack should they wish to.
Yes, they have, although McLaren have had a habit of that second stop being a little bit lumpy if they're under pressure earlier on in the season. But also, Norris with a 6.7 second advantage over Leclerc could actually do 2 more laps if he had to, but you wouldn't really want to risk it that much.
Lando has been told the box. Now, Oscar Piastri might wanted to have come in, actually, and pitted first. He's got Max Verstappen now right on his tail, but Lando is going to come in first to cover off that potential undercut from Charles Leclerc. So Piastri continues on his way with Verstappen a few car lengths behind him now and making his way on the insides and past our commentary box to make his pit stop now is Lando Norris. This is his final pit stop, or should be, of this 2025 season, which as it stands will see him become world champion. The hard tyres going back on again, another neat stop with no problems whatsoever, and there is Lando Norris making his way at 80 kilometres an hour down the pit straight. We're looking at that final corner, can't even see George Russell and Charles Leclerc coming round that final corner. Norris will get out ahead of them. Here comes Max Verstappen on Oscar Piastri and makes the pass at turn 6. So Piastri loses the lead of this race. He hasn't stopped yet. He's got a job on his hands, and Lando Norris, they've covered off the Charles Leclerc undercut, and he's on his way to a championship at the moment.
Yeah, and no shenanigans there from Oscar Piastri. A 2.4, lovely stop from McLaren. Ted's down there.
Yeah, and they lost that 0.3 seconds on the right rear. It was a little bit slow going on, but they rejiggled successfully, Martin, and now they've rejiggled again, and Oscar Piastri is coming out. I can see the Pirelli tyres with the yellow sidewalls. So this is Piastri, and he's going to have to get his overtaking hat on with the little cork bits coming down. Team ready?
No, it just says box.
Oh, box. Yeah, so he's going to have to overtake if he wants anything to say in the second half. So here he comes in, and they'll be after a 2.1 second stop again. And yeah, hits his mark perfectly, and he's away. And there are some claps from the McLaren crew. Job done from them for the season. Great job.
And Piastri will be very pleased to get rid of those tyres. He was struggling to get through underneath the hotel there on the way into the pits. What can he do now? Who can he catch? Who can he get past? Who does he need to catch, indeed?
Well, he'll come out, there we go, ahead of Lando Norris. There's Piastri back out into this race where he left the race after he was overtaken by Max Verstappen in second place. So Verstappen first, Piastri second, Norris third. There's the championship battle as as it stands, Lando Norris will be the 35th different world champion in the 75 years of the Formula One World Championship, and he's got another 16 laps to contend with. On board now with Hamilton chasing Hulkenberg down the back straight, and we'll just watch this one plan out.
This is Leclerc, on George Russell. This is full position. Leclerc's been absolutely flying since he changed those tyres.
Apologies, I'm just looking at the timing on the left-hand side there, because Hamilton is also gaining on Hulkenberg too. So, Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Russell now the top 5.
I don't want to be giving up too much time. We want to see whether we can chase down Verstappen here.
Well, why not? Because there might be a win on the cards, you never know. Bernie Collins, down to you.
Yeah, so that was very, very close to Piastri there, because he lost position to Verstappen during what was his in-lap, because he delayed due to let Lando Norris stop first. That was very close to actually being undercut by Lando Norris, and because of that time loss now, Verstappen actually has a free pit stop, a full free pit loss. So if there's any risk that those 19-lap hard tyres can't make the end of the race, they have an option to stop him, and he's very safe under safety cars. So let's just keep an eye on Verstappen over the next few laps. What will they do? Will they cover?
Right, and here's the jeopardy for Lando Norris. If Max Verstappen wins this race, Lando Norris needs that third place. Charles Leclerc is faster than Lando Norris, who is on the hard tyre. Leclerc is on the medium tyre. If Leclerc can get Lando Norris, and Norris is down in 4th, Max Verstappen wins the title. And then there might need to be a call from the pit wall. This is Lewis Hamilton behind Nico Hulkenberg. Here's an overtake coming. Under traction, coming out of the chicane. Lewis Hamilton gets a much better getaway and doesn't even need the slipstream to get past.
Yeah, and you're right. So having got that comfort blanket, comfort zone a little bit, Lando Norris, now the rate that Leclerc's catching him, he is going to be a problem yet again, looming into the mirrors. And George Russell quite slow out there at the moment with his one-stop scenario, and so he's out of contention. So the biggest problem they've got is McLaren in terms of their World Championship, but they still have another tool in their toolbox of Oscar Piastri if he can't win the World Championship.
Over to you, Anthony. So last message to Max Verstappen after this team.
He's going to need to be 1.5 seconds quicker than you every lap. I'll keep you posted.
And he hasn't said anything since that, so they're planning on leaving Max Verstappen out there. The big question is, can those new tyres for Piastri give him that 1.5 seconds per lap? It's a tall order, I think.
Can I just ask a question? And maybe Bernie Collins might need to be the one to answer this. If you're Max Verstappen and you've got a free pit stop to Oscar Piastri, do you come in and then start to back up the pack and close it all together to try and negate that tool in the armoury that McLaren might use by asking their drivers to swap around?
That's the only, right now, that's the only tool that Red Bull have got left, isn't it, now? Because without doubt, McLaren would put Piastri behind Norris. They made that clear earlier on in the week. I don't think Oscar would fight that, because what goes around comes around. And he'll know that he might get that advantage down the road. So we'll see what happens. Leclerc is the problem at the moment for them. So if Norris has got some more pace, he really needs to be finding it. He's losing thick end of a second a lap.
What's the picture in front? How do I win this race? So Verstappen is on your pit stop window. He's doing 27.9.
And this is where McLaren need Oscar Piastri's pace as well, because they need to make sure Verstappen hasn't got a free pit stop to Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, so Norris has just done his fastest lap of the race, 26.8, found some pace, 26.7 Piastri on his fresh tyres, 27.8 Verstappen may have just passed Pierre Gasly on that lap, hence the lower time. Yes, interesting. So Piastri a second, I can't imagine in Max Verstappen's crash helmet, that message, I would imagine thinking, well, good luck with that, being a second and a half lap faster than me. But Piastri is straight into the 126s.
Yeah, so as soon as that gap gets down to about 21 seconds between Verstappen and Piastri, Verstappen's locked in to his strategy. And I'm not seeing any movement in the pit lane, and the Red Bull mechanics coming out. Verstappen is just making his way round the final corner now. the gap is coming down. At the end of the next lap, it might be crunch time to see if Verstappen does come in, and then that 22 seconds gap disappears between Verstappen and Piastri, and then he's very much controlling the race. And what he will be hoping to do is keep Piastri behind him, slow the pace down, allow Norris to catch up, Leclerc to catch up, Russell to catch up too. It's a tall order, but if you're trying to win a world championship, it's what he's got to do now, because it's the last throw of the dice time.
Yeah, George is 2 seconds a lap off the pace at the moment, so I think they'd pass him, to be honest, if he tried to go that slow. And there's always a risk in a pit stop, you know, if you get a stuck wheel nut or something like that. So you've got to hard that Ferrari's hitting the ground. What's that all about? He was running a little bit wide through there, it must be said, but yeah, the Ferrari extremely low.
So if Verstappen pits now, that will be the gap between Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri. He's got fresher tyres. He can keep Piastri out of DRS range, but can he hold up Piastri's pace?
If they were going to do that, they would already have done it, because they're at risk with Piastri on a pit stop.
It's just an intriguing, you know what this place is like. It's such a straightforward race, but somehow it doesn't always end up that way. Leclerc is the fastest man on the track currently. Pierre Gasly has exceeded track limits on one too many occasions. He's got a 5-second penalty. He won't care, he's a lap down, and he's only got his teammate Franco Colapinto behind him. Alpine last place in the Constructors' Championship, and Renault are going to bow out as an engine supplier with the last place, which is a real shame for Renault. 771 Grand Prix, 178 wins. They've been brilliant over the years, and they're going out with a whimper, which I suppose for an engine manufacturer is probably better than going out with a bang.
You could say that. In fact, you did say that. Lewis Hamilton's got a great chance here of 7th place from 16th start. It's a long, 6th with Fernando Alonso. He'll be right up with Fernando Alonso. Actually pretty soon. So Lewis Hamilton then looking at a P6 at the moment.
Yeah, on his two-stop strategy. Norris and Leclerc also running a two-stop strategy in this race. They could be battling it out for that 3rd place. And if Lando Norris is down in 4th and Max Verstappen wins, that is enough to give Max Verstappen the world title. I expect a bit of a swap, maybe on the last lap, if that's the case.
Is Charles catching it or not?
Fairly equal pace, Max, between them. Last lap was a couple of tenths quicker, but nothing drastic.
Right, gap now is 20 seconds. So Max has not got that pit stop window, has he?
No, he hasn't. As I said, they had to do that pretty much straight away if they were going to play that game. But it's dawning on Max now, as he's busy driving a Formula 1 car at incredible speed and thinking about the rest of the race. It's dawning on him now that Leclerc is his only chance of taking that critical 3rd place from Norris. But they've still got Piastri there as well.
Last lap, lap 47, Lando Norris was just a little bit quicker than Charles Leclerc. So that gap, 4 seconds between the two of them. And Max Verstappen's hopes, they might fade a little bit on that one, because it seems that Norris has got the pace. The hard tyre will perform better for longer than the medium tyre, which will be faster but for shorter.
Yeah, and as we saw in the first stint, didn't we? Eventually, the Ferrari just started to drop off the pace of Lando Norris's McLaren. And for the first time then, car number 1, Max Verstappen, a track limits warning.
Shows you how hard it's pushing.
It does. You have to say the championship contenders have driven immaculately, haven't they? No surprise in that, but they really have.
1,457 days Max Verstappen has been world champion. Is that grip going to be fully loosened here this evening? It is looking that way. Kimi Antonelli on Isaac Hadjar, Verstappen's teammate at Red Bull for next season. That puts Kimi Antonelli up into 13th place. Nico Rosberg is on duty this evening and has popped into the commentary box for all the fun and games we kind of expected this evening. McLaren seem at the moment to have this well covered off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was quite an exciting race all the way through, but Lando has done a fantastic job. He's done exactly everything that he needed to do Really brilliant drive so far.
And Charles Leclerc doesn't seem to have that pace and the longevity of that pace. So Nico, he's breathing way more easily, Lando Norris, than you were in 2016 at this stage. What is going through Lando Norris's mind?
Yeah, but he had the stress at the beginning of the race. That was extremely stressful and very uncomfortable. And now, yes, he's in a much better place, and so he's looking very, very good.
Yeah, when he came out of the pits and saw so much traffic in front of him, it would have been a horror story for him. But he sliced through those like a hot knife through butter. But it's about now, Nico, isn't it? When you start hearing funny noises and you think the car, you pick up a little vibration, you think, oh, is the car okay? You start, I don't know, your senses seem to come into your own car.
Yeah, absolutely, because not too long ago that his car broke down in Frankfurt, you know, so now he's really like praying, please just hold on for these 8 more laps.
And what did you make of Yuki Tsunoda? He got a 5-second penalty. Could you see it coming where he made it really, really tough?
First of all, that was a nightmare moment for Lando. That was like the worst moment. But yeah, Tsunoda tried to make it tough and just went over the edge there and was a bit too extreme, so the penalty was fair.
We see Lance Stroll getting past Isaac Hadjar. Stroll has now pitted, which is why he's down in 14th. Charles Leclerc then trying to get back at Lando Norris. It's not happening. Oscar Piastri has driven as good a race as he can tonight on a counter strategy, and it might just fall a little bit short.
Well, quite a lot short. I was expecting him to be a little bit quicker now towards the end when comparing to Max Verstappen, but I think Max is also just driving so brilliantly again. He's really rapid again today.
Thank you very much, Nico. You can go back next door.
That was it?
That was it. We wanted to get your thoughts as our 2016 world champion with us this evening, and it's always a pleasure to have you in the commentary. And you'll be with Simon, of course. You've got to keep him company and do some more talking after this race. Nico Rosberg with us this evening. Thank you, sir. Lap 50 then, Martin, of 58. And whilst Max Verstappen is preparing for win number 71 in his career, and 2 in 2 weeks for Max Verstappen, make that 3 in 3 weeks for Max Verstappen. And Oscar Piastri is thinking, right, there's a lot I can learn from this season that I can take into next. Lando Norris will start to be contemplating the life-changing moment.
It's when you know, sometimes the drivers moan about sprints or whatever, but every single World Championship point counts, and all 3 of them have been on a roller coaster, haven't they? They've had some outstanding, brilliant performances, and then they've had some scrappy ones or gone on the missing list a little bit. Red Bull, was it Hungary, a minute behind or something? It was, and then suddenly they line it all back up again, and the driver really gets back on the programme, and so all 3 of them have really kind of been to hell and back at certain points this year, and here we are, because every point in the season counts equally.
So Lando doing a fantastic job here, mate. Everything's looking good. There's 5 racing laps, including this one, we think. What are your thoughts on soft or staying out on this hard?
I mean, I think a softer would be better. It's just, you know, safety car gets delayed or something, it becomes issue.
And they're talking safety car situation, of course. They're not talking about a random stop, because that would put him behind Charles Leclerc, a long way behind Charles Leclerc.
Could even put him behind George Russell if the stop was a little bit too slow as well. Here's Nico Hülkenberg in his 250th Grand Prix start, 3rd German driver to reach that figure, and that is Nico Hülkenberg getting past Alex Albon. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, so the fight brilliantly held on for Fernando Alonso, P6. But Lewis Hamilton is trying all he can to end his first season with Ferrari on a high by trying to overtake Esteban Ocon. He's got fresher tyres and a medium compound against Ocon's hard. He's going to try, I think he might be able to do it before the end of the race. Quick one on George Russell. Spectacularly now he's fallen off behind the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, and just brings to an end the Mercedes not getting their cars right under this ground effect rules set, Crofty. And yeah, they've got one more test with this car, and they'll be glad to see the back of these rules set where they just haven't managed to master it. Russell set for a lonely P5.
Second warning for Max Verstappen for track limits has just popped up on the screen here. He is pushing the limits. Fernando Alonso's just done his personal best, his fastest lap of the race, and that's actually given him a little bit of a comfort zone of Ocon and Hamilton very close behind him.
Yeah, if Hamilton could get Ocon, he could well get Fernando Alonso here. If Mercedes want to say goodbye to the ground effect, I'm sure Lewis Hamilton does too. 91 Grand Prix have taken place in the ground effects era, make that 92 now. 2 wins and 1 pole only for Lewis Hamilton. In that ground effects era, we changed the regulations for next season, and it looks like there's a changing of the number 1 too. There he is, car number 4, currently starting lap lap 53 of this race. And next year, if it stays this way, Lando Norris could have car number 1 on that papaya McLaren.
At this pace, he'll be catching Oscar Piastri in the closing laps. He's now in the 26s, comfortably the fastest driver on the track last time around, very comfortably actually, and some 1.6 quicker than Verstappen out front. He's not coasting home, is Lando Norris.
Well, that's always a bad move to coast home. You've got to keep going at the comfortable racing speed. We've seen drivers falter in the past when they've been asked just to slow it down and bring it home. And 8 title deciders in the history of the Formula One World Championship, featuring 3 or more, or more than 2 drivers in contention for that title. Only once in the past has the driver leading that title standings going into the final race gone on to become champion. It's going to be 2 in 8 in a few laps time for Lando Norris. And well, a man who hails from Glastonbury, where they like a festival or two. I think it's a fallow year next year with no Glastonbury festival. They could have Londonbury, couldn't they, down in Glastonbury, and have a festival for their world champion. Maybe I've just hit on an idea there, you never know. Across the line he goes, and the trophy is there, almost within touching distance. There's round about 12 miles to go.
It's been tense, hasn't it? I'm not sure it's been exciting, but it's been incredibly tense all the way through. The jeopardy that there could have been, and there has been from time to time. But Norris then, with some tremendous pace at the moment, still comfortably the fastest man out there, looking at the back of his teammate. Bertie has more news down on the pit counter.
Yes, hello Martin. So I just wanted to come in a little bit on that safety car conversation for Lando Norris. Obviously they discussed 5 to go, and that was a few laps ago, so there was more laps than that available. It was just 5 to go at a safety car restart. That's what they were talking about, and that's a big decision on the McLaren pit wall. Do they give up the P3 position and end up behind Leclerc? He would be behind Leclerc if there was a safety car now, if Leclerc stayed out. So that's a big decision on the McLaren pit wall. Towards the end of the next few laps, they'll close that safety car window because it likely wouldn't restart. But obviously we've got precedents here before of needing to make the right decision under a safety car at this stage of the race. Would they risk the P3 to have a fresh tyre for Leclerc? Big call for McLaren. I think at this stage probably not, but that's why the discussion was happening.
Late safety car call, Abu Dhabi for the World Championship. It must be said though, we haven't had a safety car or a virtual safety car here for the last 4 years. It's about to be 5 for the looks of it.
Quite happy if it stays that way. Right, Lance Stroll on Carlos Sainz, who was trying to get past Gabriel Bortoleto on the previous lap and almost went into the back of the Sauber. And Stroll, really good exit, and he's now up into 11th, and he's chasing a points finish maybe here tonight behind Gabriel Bortoleto. Pointless at the last 8 Grand Prix weekends. Can he finish the season off with a point? We'll see. There is Oscar Piastri. There is Lando Norris. 3rd on the road, number 1 in the championship, on his way to the title. If you're just joining us, it's not been the most comfortable of nights for Lando Norris, but it is going to end in one big party in a few laps' time.
Is he struggling with Brady?
For Oscar, it's more the rears.
For Charles Leclerc it is 2, which is why he's dropped back.
Yeah, that's Lando shaping up there, isn't he? Thinking, I think I might have a go at that, McLaren. Yeah, Leclerc now 8 seconds behind Norris. And still Lewis Hamilton tucked up right behind Esteban Ocon. And that's really stopped him. I talked about him getting a P6, but his momentum was completely halted on the gearbox of Esteban Ocon, but both passes in the points.
Here comes Lance Stroll again on Gabriel Bortoleto as we see Lando Norris over the line, and later on, or down that back straight, Lance Stroll does get Gabriel Bortoleto. He's overtaken, Hulkenberg is overtaking Yuki Tsunoda and up into 13th. And well, Lando's off on his way again. His teammate Oscar Piastri is ahead of him. A long way up the road is Max Verstappen. We're going to set a record here in Abu Dhabi tonight for the most consecutive wins from pole at a single track. It'll be 11 years, or 11 races and 11 poles that have gone on to win that Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri is going to settle in second place tonight, having led the championship for longer than any other driver this season. But the championship has got away from him in the last 6 or so races. Bounced back, of course, in Qatar and had the win taken away from him, but the strategy didn't work out. He'll come back and he'll learn from this year, and he'll mount a fresh challenge for next year, I'm sure. And Lando Norris will carry the big smile away from Abu Dhabi as the world champion. Ana Damas has got the checkered flag in her hands, Martin Brundle, waiting to wave it for our top three here, and it's going to end up with what we were saying going into this race. It's Lando Norris's to lose, and at the moment he's not going to lose that, and it's all going to end okay for him.
Commentator's curse, Crofty.
Doesn't exist, Martin.
Let's see, still quite a long way to go. There's a lot of pistons to go up and down, and crankshafts to go round and round. Let's see him over the line.
There's nothing we can do to influence the result of the race, I promise you, on that one. Behind Norris, Charles Leclerc in fourth, and George Russell running fifth. Alonso with a very useful sixth place as it stands. Ocon ahead of Hamilton, keeping Hamilton at bay. He's dropped back a little bit now. Behrman is currently ninth. Double points finish for the Haas team, and Lance Stroll making a double points finish for Aston Martin. We're on lap 57 of 58. And Anthony Davidson's at Sky Race Control.
So if you're wondering why Lando's dropping back so much from Oscar now, he's been told, I think they realised he was having a bit too much fun in catching his teammate. We heard the radio message saying, what's wrong with Oscar? It's his rear tyres going away on those mediums. So yeah, they're trying to calm him down. Say, look, don't push. There's nothing to prove. Just back out of it. And also, you're locking the rears too much into turn 6. So just basically just chill out. There's no need. We all know how fast you are. There's no need to be pushing like this right now. So that's why he's falling back.
1,457 days, Max Verstappen has been world champion. He starts his final lap, Martin Brundle, and this will be the last final lap, flying lap of his tenure with that number 1 car for the time being.
And hasn't he driven brilliantly this year and tonight, but it's not going to be quite enough. Too many races in the middle of the year where they weren't competitive enough. But has he ever put that right? As you say, this will be his 3rd victory in 3 weekends consecutively. He's done everything he could tonight, but McLaren had him covered.
It's Max the underdog, and we've not always said that in his Formula 1 career, and the underdog is going to stand on the top step of the podium tonight, but that ultimate prize is going to slip out of his grasp. Emerson Fittipaldi, James Hunt, Niki Lauda, Alan Prost, Ayrton Senna, Mika Hakkinen, Lewis Hamilton, previous driver world champions for the McLaren team, and they're going to add another name to that list here in Abu Dhabi this evening. Max Verstappen now makes his way around the final few corners here, and like you say, Martin, he's done everything he can tonight to try and keep his grasp on that world trophy. It's going to slip away, but this is win number 3 in 3 Grand Prix for Max Verstappen. It's win number 5 in Abu Dhabi. He wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Max Verstappen on top in the race tonight. Oscar Piastri led the championship for longer than any other driver this season. He has to settle for 2nd place, and that title challenge faltered. Papaya rules in 2025. Lando Norris crosses the line, and for the first time in his racing career, he is Formula 1 champion of the world.
Brilliant. Congratulations to Lando Norris. It's just 2 World Championship points that he wins by, but it doesn't matter. It's enough. And wow, that was a very tense 50 laps, wasn't it? But they got it done. And that's his mum.
Well, the celebrations have started. 2 points he wins by. You remember in Qatar last week when Kimi Antonelli struggled, hadn't got the grip, went off the track, Lando overtook him right at the end, and I said how crucial could those 2 points be? They might just have been so crucial. Lando Norris got a world championship. Wowzers.
Yeah, you can go back, as we did in our pre-show, go back through the season and see half a dozen moments for all 3 of them that could have turned this on its head for their own world championships. But that's all just talk, that's all just hearsay, isn't it? What matters is what the final tally was.
I sense a bit of tension released from you now. Now the commentator's curse doesn't exist. And the man that we met as a boy and who came into the McLaren team and was famous for making tea for Fernando Alonso might now have a bit of champagne served to him by Fernando Alonso.
That's it, mate. You are world champion. World champion. Well done, mate. I'm so proud. Lando, this is Zach from McLaren. Is this the world champion hotline?
Yeah.
Thanks. Awesome.
Thank you guys. Oh my god. You made a kid's dream come true. Thanks so much. I love you guys. Thanks for everything. You deserve it. I love you, Mum. I love you, Dad. Thanks for everything. I'm not crying.
Yeah, we all are. To be honest, I don't think there's a dry eye in the house after that one.
Yeah, been a lot of tension relieved at McLaren. They've had 2 shocking weekends for different reasons.
Max, you have given everything. You can be proud of that, mate. Hold your head up high.
We showed them one final time. He's passed. Congrats, guys. What a fun back. And that second half of this season, we can be really, really proud of that. So don't be too disappointed. I'm definitely not disappointed. I'm really proud of everyone to never give up.
Ted Kravitz in the pit lane has Zach Brown with him.
Wow! That obviously means so much to you and to Lando.
This is amazing. What a season. We did it. It wasn't easy. Lando and Oscar, what a group of drivers, what a great team this is. That was exciting, a little too exciting. Awesome.
Okay, great stuff. Congratulations. We'll catch up with you later, Zach.
Fireworks and then smoke on the grid too as the world champion performs the customary donuts on the grid. This is the moment that he has been waiting for. The 35th driver now, different driver, to win the Formula One World Championship. The 11th from Britain. First different driver since Jenson Button in 2009. Lewis Hamilton had already won, of course, in 2008. There's one of 6 more since 2009, but the 11th different driver to win that championship. And the 4th longest career in F1 history before becoming champion, behind Jenson, Nigel Mansell and Nico Rosberg. And of course, like the diligent, beautiful driver that he is, he puts the steering wheel back in before he stands on top of his car as a champion.
Well done, Lando. Mum and Dad looking on.
It's family celebration in front of millions of people around the world. One of the most popular and well-supported drivers in the field, and Max Verstappen. First to congratulate, and Oscar Piastri there to say well done. Years the journey to the Norris family. They've landed the big one tonight.
Good job, well, didn't he? Absolutely, he did everything you have to do. He needed a top 3 to finish third. Huge.
The final standings, Lando Norris 423 points, Max Verstappen 421 points, Oscar Piastri 410 points. McLaren has the double championship then, the Constructors' Championship and the Drivers' Championship. He said on Thursday his friends will be here along with his family too. Shared the journey with them. They wanted to share the celebrations too. And they've been through a bit together. Zach Brown and Lando Norris are. And the mum knows when someone needs a hug as well. So Sister Norris makes her way over to Oscar Piastri to say well done and commiserations.
Nice shot from Oscar. Congratulations. The Norris family and friends. That lid's not going to come off yet. I think he's still crying a lot under there.
Well, why not? George Russell comes across to say well done to. And I call it a life-changing moment because it is, Martin, to be a Formula 1 World Champion. 35 people have ever called themselves a Formula 1 World Champion.
Living for the rest of his life. Yeah, that's a calling card. An incredible calling card. All the blood, sweat, tears, all the miles, all the silent journeys home from the kart track when it didn't go right, all the international sport is often much more disappointment than happiness and success. But you weather all of that for moments like this.
We'll hear from the top 3 in a few moments. I'm not sure if Lando's got waved yet or not, but the press is certainly going to come off, and here we are. We can get a look at the new world champion.
Thank you for watching, guys. See you next season.
He's had to answer all the questions, hasn't he? You got